Welcome back, adventurers, once again to Let's Play ChäoS. In the last episode, the Shibuya Police Department finally found a lead in the third new-gen incident regarding the staking murder through the means of a surveillance camera that just happened to capture some footage. And unfortunately, it doesn't bode well for Takumi Nishijo because there was only one person caught on that camera, and that was him when he was running away from the scene of the crime, having stumbled upon it and inadvertently picked up one of the stakes and ran away with it. Meanwhile, Takumi himself was trying to try and clear his name by looking into the photo that Shogun had posted over the internet, only to find two things. First of all, there was no sign of the mysterious girl that he had seen in the at the actual scene of the crime. Instead, however, he found in the photo was himself running away, except that series of events took place on the 29th, but the photo was made on the 28th. Of course, none of this really matters, as Takumi is fully aware that the police will pretty much consider him a suspect based on that alone. And unfortunately, the noose is pretty much slowly tightening around Takumi. It was hard to breathe, though all I've been doing was looking at things up on my PC. I felt my heart pulsing more violently than usual. Yeah, Takumi is pretty much prime suspect number one, and if he's even more unfortunate, the police might even suspect him of actually, well, even if they don't suspect him, they might try to pin him as the killer to try and save face with the public and the mass media, which doesn't bode well for Takumi. As before, the presence of something watching me refused to disappear. I was still just barely holding out, keeping myself from turning around, but my limits were approaching. I howled at that something. Its true identity wasn't that demon girl, was it? Maybe she was using X-ray vision or clairvoyance, or some similarly demonic power to keep me under surveillance. Well, whoever the true identity of whatever is gazing at Takumi from seemingly out of nowhere, that doesn't really help the current situation. The prickling at the back of my neck grew steadily stronger and stronger, transforming into a pain like an electric shock. I'd been sweating copiously for a while now. The collar of my t-shirt had gotten completely drenched. In other words, things are as bad as they could be for Takumi, and they're going to get a hell of a lot worse before this is all over. Unable to bear it any longer, I whirled around. All I saw was the same old room, with no indication that it had undergone any change whatsoever. Shouting in a voice that sounded more like a shriek, I got up and checked to see if the door had been properly bolted. It had. A tiny bit relieved, I wiped the sweat off my forehead with my shirt sleeve. Returning to my PC, I glared at the monitor anew. I've been researching precognition. The very thing that Yua had accused Takumi of. When I was a child, I'd seriously believed that precognitive abilities really existed. To be 100% honest with you, I still believe in them a little bit, even now. And we know this from Takumi's flashback over the field trip that he ultimately was forced not to go on through his parents, which ended in tragedy for Takumi's homeroom teacher. As a result, I had the instinctive notion that the image the demon girl and Shogun sent me was the one that foretold the future, and I've been left with no choice but to look deeper into the matter. Well, the date that the photo was made would definitely throw a wrench into the whole new gen timeline, to be sure. Perhaps without my knowing it, the world was already full of prophets. I myself had done something similar to seeing the future when I was a child before the bus accident. Because of that, I couldn't completely deny it. But no matter how much I researched it, everything I came up was related to the occult or magic, all kinds of sketchy looking stuff. There was nothing purporting to scientifically prove that such powers existed, or on the flip side, that they didn't.
一つぐらいあってもいいだろう。
Increasingly irritated, I struck viciously at my keyboard. If things stayed so vague, anxiety would make me lose the ability to hold myself together. Was I supposed to keep waiting for demons that may or may not come for me? My nerves wouldn't be able to take it. Yeah, it'd be best to have proof that they weren't coming. But for now, I just wanted things to be black and white, clear and understandable. Oh, if only. Now, I didn't have much of a choice left except to take a look at Channel's occult board. It was mostly made up of white noise, lies and absurdity, but there were also times when it had shockingly impressive news, leads and information. Suppressing my impatience, I opened that channel's main page. I jumped to the occult board and ran a search for telling the future. And... that's, interesting. All about Phantasm. But that's not the only thing. Yeah, there's a name that we've seen before. Fez. I got an awfully large number of hits. About 30. Was precognition the new in thing on that channel? Probably. Gulping, I checked the thread titles one by one.
Phantasm. FES.
Most of the threads I'd come up with contained the words Phantasm and Fez, and yes, I'm going to pronounce it as that. On top of that, New Gen frequently appeared in the same line, and there were a lot of disquieting phrases like prophetic lyrics and murderer. Googling it taught me that Phantasm was a four-man gothic punk band currently on tour, with Shibuya as their home field. They were such a popular group that they monopolized people's conversations about the indie music scene, and their vocalist was a girl by the name of Fez. For the moment, wanting to find out how they were connected to precognition, I picked the top thread, Predictions, Prophecies, all about Phantasm, New Gen 4.3, and started skimming it. Let's see what we can uncover. Black Mass, eh? Otherwise you'll get staked to death. I read the lyrics, but I couldn't really take them in. They say stuff too vaguely, makes for a very pretty shitty prophecy, but spare me from being staked. Heh. Yeah. There's absolutely no way that the police aren't going to tie that to the third New Gen murder. And by that I mean they're totally going to tie it to the third New Gen murder, because that was the cause of death. And there are a lot of people who just want to enjoy Phantasm's music, obviously. Although said fans are still intent on tying in Phantasm to the New Gen madness. Apparently someone named Ryo wrote the songs, one of the band members. And of course we get the proverbial trolls. And some really weird users online. Yeah. In other words, a whole bunch of nothing. Ah, but now this is interesting. We finally get the lyrics. And we've heard these lyrics before when Fez was singing them to herself on the Shibuya Bridge. Which eerily strike a chord with the third New Gen murder. Yeah.
十字の杭
These lyrics. No matter what, I couldn't believe they signified anything other than the staking I'd seen with my own eyes. Furthermore, these lyrics were from a song that had come out 2 months ago. In other words, she hadn't written them after the staking murder had taken place.
これが予知ってこと
Was it a mere culmination of coincidences? Or was Phantasm too among the demon girl's underlings? Reading the log in more detail revealed the startling fact that all three New Gen incidents had been prophesied in lyrics beforehand. That's not a good coincidence for the band. Except the lyrics of the songs predicting the group dive and the pregnant man hadn't been posted on that channel. Whatever the case might have been, people seem to think you shouldn't upload them. If you want to know that bad, go to one of their shows and buy their album, they were saying. In any event, those online were going wild trying to figure out what kind of killing method would be used in the next New Gen case, based on the lyrics for all the songs Phantasm had released up until the present. Some people and their crazes. Ever since the New Gen cases had started, their independently released album had been selling out like hotcakes, and parts of the media had increasingly begun to adopt them as the goth punk band currently experiencing a cult-like popularity among Shibuya's young people. Fez was the only one who was the one who wrote the lyrics, apparently. Maybe she wrote the lyrics of that particular track. Apparently it was pronounced Fesu. I don't care, I'm pronouncing it as Fez, and not Fes, and certainly not Fesu. Her real name remained undisclosed. That's definitely good, although I'm certain that certain at-channel internet trolls will certainly try to dox her. Because that's how social media works, unfortunately. Maybe she was that demon girl. When you actually meet her in person, I sincerely would doubt it. Then there wouldn't be anything odd about her to predict her ability to predict the incidents several months in advance. After all, she herself was the perpetrator. I tried running an image search, but I couldn't find any photos of Fez's face. They were all cell phone pics taken during concerts, so shaky that I couldn't discern anything about what she looked like.
くそ。
I wiped the sweat off my forehead with the hem of my t-shirt. Irritation and terror, the feeling that everything around me was a lie, the feeling that I didn't want to see anything, a whole range of emotions mixed together inside me, making my breath grow tight. I had been breathing harshly this whole time. In any case, I wanted to see Fez's face for myself. With trembling fingers, I typed at my keyboard, heading for Phantasm's official site. Something tells me we're going to draw up empty. Yeah, I called it. What showed up was a plain-looking site with black as its basic theme. The words were a uniform scarlet, giving off a strange, or perhaps frightening atmosphere. Yeah, the site is interesting, but although it's fairly generic. The site contained almost no news, and not a single photograph. All that was written there was information about their shows and their discography. There wasn't a single bit about band members' profiles or lyrics to their songs. Definitely keeps with their mysterious image.
やっぱり犯人だけあってネットに顔写真が流出しないようにしてるのか。
Unfortunately, Takumi's reason is slowly being sapped away by his anxiety and paranoia. She sure knew what she was doing. When I looked at their itinerary of shows, it appeared they performed about once every 2 weeks. Their next live performance was...
あさって。
So 2 days from now. If I went to see it, I'd be able to confirm whether or not Fez was the demon girl. But once I confirmed it, where would that get me? That is a very good question, but it's the only other lead we have right now. Would I give Fez over to the police? Would I weep and plead her not to get me involved? Would I go bearing a cross and pretend to perform an exorcism? All those options were asking the impossible. She was a demon. A nasty otaku stood no chance of, like me, stood no chance of surpassing her. And if I lost to the demon girl, I'd die. My body would metamorphose into a ruthless work of art, and I get put up on some wiki site as one of the new gen cases.
そんなのやだ。
And given Takumi's reclusive lifestyle, he, doesn't really tend to go out into crowded concerts. I didn't, but if things continue this way, I'd never understand how I ended up as part of the image data that Shogun had sent me. Yeah, sorry to yet again put another pin in your viewpoint, Takumi, but that photo was not photoshopped, at least not under normal circumstances. But if Fez had nothing to do with the demon girl, maybe I could ask her for help and find some way to fight back. That is probably the only hope that you have left at this point.
だけどやっぱり無理だ。ライブなんて行けるわけがない。
In my whole life up until now, I'd never gone to one even once. It'd be the equivalent of playing an away game. Concerts were small and dark and noisy and packed with people. Simply imagining it made me nauseous. At a loss for what to do, I held my head. As the tingling sensation on the back of my neck went on and on, it changed from a numbing pain to a scorching pain, as though my skin were burning. And even if I turned around, no one was there. And yet someone is watching.
もうやめてよ。
I squeezed my eyes shut and waited fervently for my sense of the gaze to vanish. I wouldn't stand for having to fret about this sensation for the rest of my life. Someday the gaze alone might be enough to kill me.
考えろ、匠。僕にできることを考えろ。
Unfortunately, nothing is coming to mind. I hid in the shadows of a telephone pole and scoped out the club called Gigantes. As you can see there on the door. After worrying about it all day, I finally made up my mind to come here, where the concert is being held. Because we have no other options but to do so. Gigantes was a striking-looking red brick building located at the entrance to a narrow road that went along Shibuya's overhead railway. Its outer walls were illuminated, giving off an atmosphere so old and sober that I almost thought I'd slip back in time to the Showa period. Not that I would know which period of Japanese history Showa is. Before now, I had no idea a place with an atmosphere like this existed in Shibuya. Well, now we know. It was barely a 5-minute walk from the station, but I sensed few people in my surroundings. Occasionally a train would pass along the overhead railway, sounding a tremendous roar and making the telephone pole I hid behind tremble minutely. Until just a little earlier, there had been a lot of people in front of Gigantes. Most likely Phantasm fans. They wore such remarkable outfits that it would have been easy to mistake them for cosplayers. Well, they are cosplayers of a sort. Phantasm cosplayers. What surprised me was the fact that the overall head count seemed fairly small. For all that Phantasm was the topic of the moment of the net, only about 100 people had come. They still seem to have a very underground band quality to them, which is probably how they operate. All of them had since entered the club. The show must have already started. The sound didn't quite leak out all the way outside though, so none of it quite seemed real to me. There's Takumi's anxiety playing up again. Though I'd succeeded in keeping my pulse under control yesterday and most of today, it had started raging again the moment I arrived at the club. It was so hard to breathe. I began wondering if I had some kind of heart disease. No, I understood why this was happening to me. A dense darkness surrounded this place. The demon girl and her crony Yua might be lurking somewhere nearby. That was why I'd been frantically looking around, watching out in case someone tried to attack me. If I were to compare the sense of tension to something in Ensu, it was about at the level of the One's Volcano Labyrinth. The game balance in the One's Volcano Labyrinth was completely ridiculous. Its enemies were particularly strong, and it was surrounded by lava, which would kill you instantly if you so much as brushed up against it. I died so many times. I skipped ahead there. It's actually kind of bizarre to think that even the mighty Nightheart could be killed by a volcano labyrinth, but okay. Swallowing, I scrubbed the sweat off my forehead with a hand towel. At the same time, the door at the top of the stairs to Gigante swung open, and for a second the sound of wildly beating drums resonated from within. A low male emerged from the doorway. Dashing lightly down the stairs, he came running up to me. Oh, it's you. Haven't seen you in
Yo,
a
Taku!
while.
待ったか
Yeah, haven't seen you in a while, Daisuke Mizumi. Also, you actually attended a concert in your Suume school outfit? Seriously? It's like nighttime. Are those the only clothes you have? I was the one who invited Mizumi-kun to the show. Because I hadn't known his cell phone number, I've been forced to come to school today in order to talk to him about it. So that's why he's here. If I were alone, I probably wouldn't have even made it as far as the front of Gigantes. Besides, even supposing I managed to enter on my own, it would be game over for me if the demon girl were there. So, Daisuke is pretty much the pillar of support, although he's a fairly unreliable pillar of support in my eyes. Therefore, I had Mizumi-kun come to perform reconnaissance for me. Of course, since he wouldn't have taken too well to the idea of being used as a scapegoat, I refrained from mentioning that part of it. Basically, tell him that Fez was there and Daisuke would come running in. No questions asked. He and Nanami were the only ones of whom I could have asked this favor. I picked Mizumi-kun because he was less obnoxious. That's a matter of perspective there, but okay. I'd paid for both our tickets. In other words, I'd hired him to the tune of 1,000 yen.
ほらよ、これ CD な。俺自分の分も買っちまったよ。
Well, glad one of us is happy. What Mizumi handed me was the Phantasm album. They've been selling for shockingly high prices in online auctions. That's supposed to be auctions, not actions. So, darn. Mistranslation typos. But because I read on that channel that they sold them during their performances, I'd asked Mizumi-kun to go buy one for me. Yeah, Phantasm, better to buy from Phantasm themselves rather than online scalpers. Scalpers are evil people. With this, I'd achieved half my goal. As for the other half...
いやー、予想以上にいいな、ファンタズムって。
Well, we have two objectives at this point. One, to look at the lyrics of the album to see what else Phantasm has quote-unquote prophesized. And two, to actually see what in fact Fez looks like at Phantasm. Having just come out of the club, Mizumi was a little worked up.
俺、あんまミーハーになりたくなかったんで聞こうとしなかったんだけどよ。今日ちょっと生で聞いただけでファンになっちまった。
That's Daisuke for you, ladies and gentlemen, following his own trends. My other request was for Mizumi to go and by himself and report back to me about the Phantasm members' distinguishing attributes. The band would go up on stage once the show started, so could have just taken a quick look at them and hurried back out to tell me about them. No, not Daisuke, especially where the lead singer is concerned. But it had taken over 5 minutes from the start of the show before he came back. Apparently it was because he'd listened to the whole first song. Of course.
特にボーカル。ありゃマジでいい女だぜ。
As Ian Malcolm once said in Jurassic Park, boy do I hate being right all the time.
お前、女見る目あるな。
Mizumi-kun really did think solely with his nether regions. So much for him to saying that he didn't want to follow the crowd. As I said moments before, he follows his own trends.
どんな人だった？
ああ、そっか。報告な。なんか探偵みてえで面白えな。そう思わねえ？
Probably don't want to mention that detective stuff in front of Takumi there. I urged the grinning Mizumi to tell me what Fez looked like.
髪型はショートカットだった。
え？
All of a sudden, her traits stopped overlapping with those of the demon girl. Did that mean that Fez wasn't the demon girl? No, wait. Don't run ahead of yourself. She could alter her hairstyle by cutting it or adding extensions. It wasn't strange to think that she might have been wearing a disguise when I ran into her at the scene of the murder. Good theory, however...
スタイルがすっげえ良くて、あと背が高かったな。ありゃ俺と同じぐらいはあるんじゃねえの？
Yeah, it's one thing to change your appearance in terms of hair and visual appearance, but height is a different matter.
背が
About the same as Mizumi-kun. Mizumi and I had similar statures, so in other words, Fez was about 170 centimeters or 5'7", pretty tall for a female. But even if there is the possibility that Fez is actually wearing shoes that actually make her taller, yeah, that is a possibility, but we would, in order to confirm that, we would actually have to see her for ourselves. But Daisuke has no reason to lie otherwise. But the demon girl hadn't given off that sort of image during my chance encounter with her. My memory was fuzzy, but I had the feeling that she'd been shorter than me, another unmatching trait.
他には？
そうだな。アンニュイな雰囲気してたな。声はクールってイメージかな。結構ボソボソと喋るタイプだった。
Daisuke all of a sudden seems less interested in the whole detective thing, because of course he is.
胸のサイズはまあまあ。でも、ゴスパンの服は妙な色気があったぜ。ああいうのもありだな。断然あり。
You're not being helpful. It was no good. I couldn't figure out anything out based on hearsay. Which means if we want to know the truth, we're going to have to go into the lion's den. I'd only caught a brief glimpse of the demon girl in the first place. If you asked me to list her salient characteristics, I wouldn't be able to come up with much. This strategy might have been unreasonable after all.
っていうかよ、そんなにフェスに興味あるなら自分の目で見ればいいじゃねえか。ほら、行こうぜ。
え？
Mizumi pushed me in the back, forcing me to climb the stairs into Gigante. I frantically tried to resist, but he was stronger than me, and I couldn't get away. However, that is going to be it for this episode of Let's Play ChäoS Head, and when we return, we shall cross the threshold of Gigantes and see Phantasm in the flesh, including their lead vocalist singer, the mysterious Fez. As always, adventurers, until next we meet.